Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fire Force Chapter 239. When we last left our heroes, we finished the fight with Raffles, as Shinra was able to take him down with a single high-powered kick. And seemingly, all was well. Except, all was not well, because the cameraman had broadcast the attack throughout the Tokyo Empire, but seemingly without the audio. Or even if it was with the audio, it was not enough to override the populace's love for Raffles. And so the sheer force of everyone's sudden hatred for Shinra, for killing Raffles, we don't know the exact details yet, but it messed with Adola enough to make him, to bring out the devil perception of him, and then he vanished. And that's where we left off last time, with a wild twist like that. So yeah, let's jump right on into Chapter 239, The Vanished Hero. Our picture here is Shinra doing his rock hand symbol, I'll be back. And so we open right where we left off with Shinra vanished. Interestingly, I don't think we've called this out before. We see the moon, and dripping from the moon's mouth is some kind of liquid. I don't know if we've ever seen that before, or if that's something new. Anyway, Shinra's disappeared. Where could he have gone? Also, something to note is that there was this kind of concentric circle effect that appeared when Raffles first showed up in the night sky, and it's still there. So we'll see if that means anything. Also, the stars are still in their, drawing of a star shape and not the little, pinpricks of light it would actually be. So we're just in this first panel, we're seeing the continuing presence of Adola on the real world. Anyway, on to the actual chapter. Shinra's disappeared, and Tamaki calls out, Iris! And she's vanished too. Which might mean that it's not related to the people's hatred of Shinra, it's a pillar thing. And then we see Arrow, who takes off her hood to ask, Commander? And he's vanished too, apparently. Which, yeah, would be the three pillars at this location. And Victor looks around. What on earth? And then we cut to Inka, Haumea, Sumire, and Yona, the first three of which are also pillars. And Yona looks even more statuesque than he has in the past. Statuesque might not quite be the right word there. He looks like an art installation. He looks like modern art. Not gonna lie. And Sumire tells Yona, all is as it should be. We too must make for the pillars. The rest is in your hands, Yona. And Yona tells them, well then, until the day of ruin. And Haumea just grins. And the three of them vanish, as it is their time too. Humanity's hero is vanished. The holy child, born of a virgin. Had he vanished like his mother and brother 12 years ago, he might have ended up a legend. Oh, so they didn't take Shinra so he would become a devil? If the child of virgin birth had vanished like that, he could have been martyrized? But he stayed on the surface, stained in the stigma of matricide. No hero of a legend. He lived as a devil. We see the chanting of devil, 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 and now the hero has been snuffed out. That's an interesting thing to take from last chapter, given that if the vanishing comes from them being pillars, then that doesn't really have anything to do with the killing of Raffles. The killing of Raffles affects more the populace's mental state than it does Shinra's. Unless when we check in with the pillars, Shinra will be back in his doppelganger state. We'll see. All that's left is to insert the key to Amaterasu. When this planet becomes a flaming star, there will be no more saviors. So, at long last, the key to Amaterasu is relevant again. Has that been mentioned in the past 170 chapters or so? It's been a good long time since Vulcan's Workshop, and I don't think we've brought up the key since then. Maybe a little bit in China. But anyway. And then we see just like a town or something in the night. There's blackouts all across the Empire. Are our comms still live? What's going on? And then Ogun turns over to Pan. Captain Pan, I've got a message from the station. Fleet? We've got mass outbreaks of infernals. Okay, this isn't great. And then we cut in with check in with Company 8, where Vulcan is doing like a scan with his little visor thing. Nothing. I can't find either of them. And Tamaki asks the group, I get that Shinra's a pillar, but why would Iris? And then I think this is Arthur, who checks under the matchbox. Maybe they're hiding somewhere. This does go to remind us that the rest of the crew does not know that Iris is the 8th pillar. But anyway, it's Victor who answers Tamaki's question. The answer is simple. And Tamaki, Obi, and Hinawa all trying to look at him. Sister Iris was the 8th and final pillar. So yeah, as Victor is paying attention to the blessings during Dragon's attack and during right now, he has pieced together that Iris is the 8th pillar. Huh? Sister? I guess our blackout's being caused by the first pillar's disappearance. Amaterasu must have stopped functioning. Oh yeah, that's right. The reason there's a blackout is because they were all powered by the first pillar. So the other disappearances, like Shinra and the sister, must have some connection. The real question is, where did they go? And just then a White Cloud approaches them, who is almost certainly Arrow. One thing I will note, though, is that we can see a few members of Company 8 in this little bitty panel on the bottom left of page 11. And Tamaki's legs are so scrawny in that drawing. She has especially with her bulky jacket and her itty bitty legs, it's just what is going on with his proportions right there. Anyway, the real question is, where did they go? And just then, someone who's, again, probably Arrow, responds, Adola. And Hinawa looks at her. You? They're in Adola. We're in a race against time. The Cataclysm is in its final stage. Yep, it was Arrow. Like I said. We don't have time to argue. And Arrow just walks through the crew as a reminder that the rest of the company has no idea what's been going on with Sho and Arrow the past 2 months. And then Tamaki snaps at Arrow. Like we're just gonna believe you. You just show up and start running your mouth? You're the one who took Captain Ho Yan's arm. I still remember what happened with Lieutenant Rekka. Oh yeah, I forgot that was Arrow. And Tamaki still holds a grudge about that, which makes sense because she is a member of Company 1 first and foremost. But Arrow just turns back to her. What's one arm compared to the fate of the world? We don't have time for this. And Maki asks her, what do you know? Just as the 4th and 8th pillars disappeared, so did the 3rd. My duty is to protect the life of Sho Kusakabe, the 3rd pillar. Which makes it seem like Sho's life is in danger, wherever he's vanished to in Adola. Which makes sense. I think it hasn't been established that the pillars are sacrifices. I think so. Anyway. And then we see a bit of a quick flashback right before Sho's arrival during the Raffles fight. And Sho turns to Arrow. Arrow, if my brother can be a hero to the people of the world, we might still be able to stop the Cataclysm. But if that fails, all of the pillars will likely be transported to Adola. And Arrow tells him, but Commander, if I lose you... Listen, Arrow. Don't lose hope. As long as my brother exists, the collective unconscious won't lead to death. And Arrow smiles. Yes, sir. I still don't quite get how, especially if Shinra is the devil in most of Tokyo's eyes, I don't get how he stops the collective unconscious from leading to death. Especially given the result of the fight with Raffles. It definitely seems like Shinra is pushing things towards death right now. Not intentionally, of course, but either way. Anyway, back in the present. With the pillar's disappearance, all that's left is to press the switch to activate the Cataclysm. And Obi asks her, Switch? There's still hope. We just need to stop the switch's activation. And Obi is starting to panic. And where's this switch? And Vulcan responds, I'll take a wild guess. Amaterasu. Right? And yep, That's where we're going. A final battle on Amaterasu. And Obi asks, "Are you sure, Vulcan? Giovanni wanted the key to Amaterasu. There's got to be a connection." And so Obi just turns to the crew. "Everybody, into the matchbox." And Arrow goes to climb aboard. "Let me accompany you." And Obi turns Maki, Arthur. And they both sit on either side of Arrow. "No funny business. We won't give you the chance." So yeah, they're all going off to go to Amaterasu for at least one half of the final battle, which really does look like the series is really on its last leg. Sounds too negative a metaphor, but on its last act, last arc. Anyway, we won't give you the chance. And then Obi turns to Arrow and asks, "What was it you said before? Don't lose hope? Strong words. They're the commander's words." And Obi looks up. "Shokun, eh? Well, as long as the world's still standing, we won't lose hope." And Vulcan calls out to the rest of the crew, "We're rolling out. Objective, Amaterasu." And the matchbox rips down the street, kicking up a huge dust cloud in its wake. And just then we see Yona and Charon and Ritsu and Dragon. "We have the key. Now let us make for Amaterasu." And we see this is Giovanni, I think, because he has the Plague Doctor mask, which must be Giovanni. But what the fuck has happened to Giovanni? Because we can only really see his head out of the silhouette, but we see an arm. That's kind of. It gives me Yona vibes. But even ignoring the arms, they're relatively normal. In the void around Giovanni, we see like eyes and mouths. It reminds me kind of the dwarf in the flask in Full Metal Alchemist. Or like the form of like the god being when he eats God or whatever. It's been a while since I've seen FMA, but that kind of vibe is what's going on here. Good and evil meet at Amaterasu. At the linchpin of the Empire, the battle for the fate of the world begins. To be continued chapter 240, The Center of the World. Alright. So I've been saying final arc for a while. And I think there's an argument to be made for the entire Second Great Cataclysm as one arc. But like the wiki has divided this up into like 4 or 5 arcs, so we're gonna go with that. But this is the end. The pillars are in Adola. Everyone else is headed towards Amaterasu to stop the Cataclysm or to start it once and for all. And like this is the end. This is it. How long this takes? Like we still got to fight Dragon. This makes it seem like there's going to be a big fight against at least Dragon and Ritsu and Charon. Maybe Yona, but Yona's not much of a fighter. Though maybe he is now in this weird alien form. As well as especially Giovanni. I'm expecting a Vulcan Giovanni fight. I'm expecting an Arthur Dragon fight. There isn't really anyone big to fight against Ritsu, like any big connection between Ritsu and Charon and any of the non-pillars. So I don't know. Like if Shinra weren't in Adola, I'd say Shinra versus Charon is coming. Final rematch between the two of them. But like Ritsu hasn't really interacted with anyone on our side, so it's hard to piece together who's going to fight her in the end. And I don't know what Yona's deal is. Yona is just, I don't know what he's doing. What is, Yona's just weird. Yona is so weird. I'm also hoping, though, that it's not just Company 8 in the end. Because, like, Benny is, like, Benny, Conroe, and Hibana are sitting around at home. Company 4 looks to be dealing with this new infernal outbreak, so maybe that scene was to, like, get them out of the way for the final arc. But, like, we still have Benny, we still have Conroe, we still have Hibana, we still have the Company 1 guys, excuse me. And then there's whatever's going on in Adola, and we don't know enough about how things are in Adola to really know how things are going to shake out there. So for now, we should probably focus on the physical world, on what's going to happen in Amaterasu. Honestly, I'm just really excited. So the thing about Giovanni is that Giovanni is his weirdness is brought up like once in the first Nether arc, in that bit where the other Plague Doctor mask like rips out of his stomach for a single line, then goes back in, and no one has ever brought it up again. And I've been waiting for years now for some explanation as to what the fuck his deal is. Like I think there was a little bit of a hint in Nether 2, but I don't quite remember it very well because that was not the part of Nether 2 I focused on. That would be Tamaki and Juggernaut. And now Giovanni looks like this. Like, what is his deal? What is his deal? I need to know what his deal is. Him and Yona too, but Yona isn't as big a character as Giovanni, isn't as present in a lot of things as Giovanni is, I think. So God, I don't know. I'm really excited for this final arc, question mark. We'll see. Onwards to the final battle and all that. I don't know. I'm like trying to like chart out, your classical shonen fights, and I'm not sure how much that'll play out because things can happen weirdly. I do though expect Arthur versus Dragon, obviously, and probably Vulcan and maybe Vulcan and Lisa versus Giovanni, especially because the Lisa Giovanni torture mind trauma connection hasn't really been explored with a lot of depth. So hopefully a final confrontation between the three of them can really, really bring that in. But yeah, this chapter is really just set up for the final battle, which is always exciting. It is, I don't know, this series is just so strong, and it looks to be going out on a high note. And I just can't wait to see where we go from here. So Arrow has joined the crew, and now all of the non-pillar main white-clad characters are all headed to Amaterasu to fight Company 8, and who knows who else. And I am pumped as hell for next week. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!